Hey, what's up, guys? It's me, Raven, and I just wanted to start off with a really quick and simple special effects video that's going to be, the first ones I do are going to be like the basics of how I do my looks. And I wanted to start this video off with talking to you a little bit about that I'm going to apologize for the quality of my first couple of videos, because I have to record them either on like my computer like I am now or with one of my phones. So the quality is not going to be as good on the first bunch, but I will try to get a better camera when I can. And so the first one that I'm going to show you to do, how I do it, is the Bruise, which you just need your brushes, which I have these two. It's the flat contour brush and a eyeshadow brush from Wet n Wild that I got at the dollar store. And then I specifically use cream paints when I do special effects because I just like how they look better. So I have yellow, purple, brown. And you can use whatever colors you need for your skin tone, but I use these three because I'm fairly pale. So these three show up a lot more on me than they would somebody who's not as pale. But you can also use a eyeliner pencil if you've never had a bruise to base one off of, or if you have trouble visualizing how it's going to look. I would use one that's a little brownish in color. Oh, we're also going to be using this. It's a darker, more plum purple for the broken capillaries. Because if you've ever had a bruise, you know they have the little capillaries in the skin. And you want to try to make it look as realistic as possible, which sometimes means a little more subtle than what people do. Because if it looks really dramatic, you know it's not something that would actually happen on a person. But you take your yellow or your eyeliner and do your outline, and then you're going to fill it in with yellow. And let me see if I don't know how well you can see that. And I'll include some pictures of it at the end, which are just going to try to blend the edges out. I'm going to use my fingers because I don't have a sponge. But if you have a beauty blender that you're willing to sacrifice, that would be probably a little better than using your finger. I don't know how we can see it with this camera. It's really a light yellow because I don't want it to be really pronounced. I want it to look like you might have just hit yourself with a doorknob. And you don't really want to make it completely circular because bruises are never circular or a set shape. They're usually really irregular and gross looking. I mean, if you manage to get a bruise that's like a perfect circle or a perfect shape, you should feel accomplished. I'm just going to make a little tail on it right here. make it kind of blobby. I'm going to leave the yellow a little darker on this side because I'm not going to cover it up with the brown or the purple as much as I would the other part. I'm just going to blend those edges. You can kind of see it a little better now with a little more yellow. The yellow is really just the base color that you're going to be putting the brown and the purple on top of. Some of it will show, but it's not going to be a lot. So it doesn't have to be that, excuse me. So it doesn't really have to be that precise, but you do want to have, or it doesn't have to be that dark or intense of a color. That's why I blended mine out so much, is because when I get a bruise, the yellow part is usually really light and hardly noticeable. So next you're going to do a little bit of brown, not a lot, because if you have a really dark brown, then it's not going to look right. It's going to look really like fake. And I got these cream paints for like $1.98 at Party Galaxy. They sell these special effects and Halloween makeup all year, so you can go and get them anytime. And this one, which is part of a stack that I got from Walmart during Halloween, was like $2, I think, for the stack. And I got a couple of them. And they're what I use usually. Because I prefer cream paints because of how they look. I feel like grease paint has too much of a shine to it. And you can't really see it, but I'm like wiping some of the brown off of my brush before people start asking. No, I didn't clean the brush before I put the brown on it, because that yellow will just help it blend in and look like it's layered. But you're going to want to do the brown around like a dot in a couple places, and then turn the brush over to the side that doesn't have as much. And you're just going to kind of do this and make it really smoked out looking. And you're just going to blend it out like this first. And then you can take your finger and just kind of blend it a little more. And these ones I'm just going to do with my finger because I don't want them to be as dark. So now you can see the shape of it a little better with the brown. And again, I apologize that this is on computer camera, so it's not the best. But there's the brown. You want to kind of keep the darker brown around the whatever edge you put it on. Like you can spread it out, like I have some around a little bit of all of it, and then I left one side of the yellow, just yellow without any brown over it. Because it's not all the way. We're going for a fresh bruise, not one that's slightly healed. So now I am going to clean my brush off a little bit into where I don't think there's hardly any brown in it. And for the purple, preferably you would want a makeup sponge or wedge that you can take and pull little pieces of it out to where it looks a little like there's like a puzzle in it, sort of. I'm not exactly sure how to say that. But the last is the purple, which is like the impact zone, which that goes over the brown and some of the yellow that we left to give it that fresh look. And then we'll do the capillaries, which we'll do a thin layer of this purple. We'll do the capillaries, and then we'll do a little bit of purple over it. So again, that it looks like it's under the skin, but still got the different layers of a natural bruise. I can get it to come out. Whew. And if you guys have any questions about anything or questions, comments, leave them in the comments. I'll be checking those as much as I can. And the next tutorial that I do will probably be a scrape, kind of like how Ellie did it, except I don't use the latex. A lot of my special effects, I just draw them on. I don't really like to use latex unless I think it's gonna help or make it look a lot better. But we're gonna add this purple really thinly in the center and kind of blend it out. And that's the first layer. And that's the first layer of the purple. If you get the purple cream paint from Party Galaxy, which it's just the generic cream paint, it's always upside down. Or, yeah, just a generic cream. It takes a couple layers to actually see the purple. That's why I do a really thin one first, and then the darker purple, and then layer this over it so you can still see the darker purple instead of just layering them like that. So for the capillaries, you're going to need anything that's like really short or has a point to it. Not like a real big dull point, but you could probably use like oh, what are they called? The spatula, the palette spatulas, if it's got the point on the end, you could use that. Or if you have like a plastic spatula, I'm going to use a toothpick because they're a lot less expensive. But you're just going to take your darker purple, preferably a really plum purple. Or if you've had a bruise before and you know what shade of purple your bruises are, you'll want to use that. But you just dip the tip of it in it and you do little dots like broken capillaries. Mainly in the darker areas is where you're going to want to put the darker ones. And then you'll want to just do lighter ones in the little bit lighter area because you wouldn't be able to see them as well in those areas. You don't want to overdo it. You don't want to make it look really dramatic. You're just going to do little dots. I did quite a bit there. That might have been a bad idea. Now I'm going to take my big brush, the contour brush, to kind of smooth these out and kind of blend them without smudging everything too badly. That's why I like the contour brush to do this. And then you can see that the lighter ones got really blended in. I'm going to use my finger a little bit too because the darker ones are a little too dark. And then you can see you have all your little broken capillaries. And I will include pictures at the end of this of it from that are a little easier to see it. Again, I apologize that it's on my computer and you probably can't see it too well. But now I'm going to do the other layer of the purple to make it, again, look a little fresher. And yes, I like to put all the caps back on my paints as soon as I use them. And you can probably hear my cats in the background meowing. And I think I'm going to do a little bit of that darker purple because this turned out the purple turned out really light on this one because I used a little too much brown. So I'm just going to take a very little of this on the eyeliner brush or eyeshadow brush that I've been using. Just kind of pat it in the center and blend it out. You want to make sure if you're using a brush like I am, that when you blend it, it doesn't have those little like brush lines. Like the little line. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but it makes a little line in the shape of the brush. Not the best looking. But there it is for the most part. I'm going to add a little bit of a different purple from my other. It's got a more red tone to it, which is what I'm going for. And it's another stack that I got from Walmart. But it's got a more red tone to it. I'm just going to pat it on. But this one happens to be a lot darker of a color, which is what I want. Cat's trying to get in the doors. And then there. If you do use another darker, the thicker paint, you might have to go back with your plum purple and do the capillaries again because they might get a little lost in it, which that's what I'm going to do right now because I want them to be a little more prominent in this one. So I'm just going to go back over it a little bit. And you don't want them to be like in a set like shape. You want them to be really sporadic and so it looks more natural because naturally those aren't going to appear all in, like bunched up in one place. But that is the bruise. Let me see if I can contour a little bit so you can see it. And that's how I do my bruises. As you can see, it's kind of messy if you get it on your hands, if you use your hands, because it's all over my arm now. But that is the finished product. And if you choose, you can add a little of your powder. If you're using grease paint, it'll be really shiny, and you might want to use some translucent powder. Or if you think the edges aren't blended enough, you can use your normal colored foundation powder really lightly over it. It'll take away some of the shine if you're using a really shiny grease paint, and it'll blend those edges into the correct color a little easier. But that is my bruise tutorial. I hope you liked it. I hope you learned some new techniques, or it helps you in some way with your special effects. If you have any questions, comments, or anything, leave them in the comment section. I'll be looking at it, and I'll try to reply to any of those as much as I can. And goodbye. This is how the bruise turned out. You can see it a lot better on this camera and in the light. These kind look a little better from further away, but it's a good starter bruise with the fundamentals of how you're supposed to do it.